about music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gifts. Join the music and Michelle, Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers is the music of music.
It is the music behind the music. And I am your host, Michelle Fallon. Welcome to tonight's episode with a dynamic female conductor of a choral program right here in the DMV, the District of Columbia, including Maryland and Virginia area, and of an award-winning choral program under her direction, under her tutelage, Lulu Mupfumbu. And I'm excited to have this conversation with her. If you all read what the conversation is going to be about, you know, we are women trying to make strides into this field of choral conducting. And it has not and isn't always an easy journey. And I would love for her to share with all of us some of the tricks to the trade that she has learned over the course of her own personal experiences, where she is the director of the award-winning Tacoma Academy. You know, she has such an extensive resume, and I would like to just share a few things with you about her before we get into the conversation, and also to take a listen to her dynamic choir. I know some of you might already be familiar with her work and with this group, but oh my goodness, when I hear some young people sing like this, I can honestly say that I am mind blown, taken away, and it's just awesome. She, again, is the director of the Tacoma Academy in Maryland. And she is running the camerata, the chorale, the concert band. She teaches music technology and film studies. Good Lord, girlfriend, what do you not handle over there? I mean, that's just dynamic. She received her master's of conducting from Ohio State University and her bachelor's in music ed from the Atlantic Union College. In 2013, the choir earned first place in the I Sing High School Choir Challenge at Reed Temple AME in Glendale, Maryland. In 2018, the choir won 1 gold medal and 2 silver medals in their first appearance at the World Choir Games. Y'all, the World Choir Games is not a little deal. That is a huge deal. And to have a group, especially a high school ensemble, and I know that they were surrounded by so many other talented young high school and probably younger than that choral programs all over. And so I'm hoping that she'll talk a little bit about that. It's a huge deal for them to even place. So they won the World Choir Games in South Africa, and they went on to win 2 gold diplomas at the American International Choral Festival in February of 2019. Woo whoop. That is a huge deal. Outside of the classroom, my sister friend has been an invited guest conductor to so many different places, including Texas and California and Kenya and Tanzania and the Bahamas. I mean, she is just really extending her reach internationally and trying to break some glass ceilings that we still have in this field. But right now, what I would love for you to do before she comes on is I'd like for you to take a little view and a little bit of a listen to her group singing in their 2019 Christmas program, which is this is a huge Christmas program that they end up doing. And that is her, of course, directing. Just absolutely beautiful. So, Muses, will you kindly welcome my friend, Queen Lulu Mupfumbu? It's so good to have you, sis.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, how are you doing all of this? I mean, how are you managing for real bands, choirs, technology? What is going on?
Well, I guess that's the full-time life of a teacher. So I do the two choirs and the orchestra, but since COVID and for the last couple of years, the film studies and the music tech have not been happening. So, or this year anyway, but they're music tech and film studies are classes that are less involved because we don't have the performances and things. They're things that I enjoy, but they're not as
Right.
involved as a performance ensemble. So yeah,
I mean, I just feel,
classes.
it's not, I'm sorry, getting a little feedback here. It's not eh, the typical music teacher's life. Okay. I walk in and I'm in my classroom and I have the joy and pleasure of really just focusing in on my choral students. I do teach keyboard. I mean, but I play the piano. So, I mean, that's okay with me, but just to have all of these, your mind is in division mode. Like you've got to be in so many different realms at one time, and I think that you do it fabulously. That choir sounds heavenly, absolutely glorious.
Oh, praise
And
God. Thank you so much. I've watched that concert a few times, but that not that particular song. And it brought back so many memories and
yeah,
the seniors from that year. So yeah. And
absolutely stellar, really and truly.
something thank you. Thank you. The young people are absolutely amazing and a joy to work with. I consider it a privilege to work with them. Something about the multiple classes that you're talking about, teaching orchestra and band, and so coming from a small Adventist college, Atlantic Union College, a lot of the teachers that ended up graduating from there from other Adventist schools or small Christian schools end up teaching in other small Christian schools that don't necessarily have a budget for two different music teachers, an instrumental and a choral person. So in our music ed training, if your major instrument was voice and you were a music ed major, they made you spend most of your student teaching and observation in an instrumental setting. And if you were an instrumental, uh, if that was your major instrument, they had you do a lot of your student teaching in vocal and choral classes. So I think that's where to kind of prepare you for whichever type of setting you end up in. So
Wow. And because in the public school sector right now, we have a whole heap of people who might have been choral education and have been thrown into the den with band, but never really had that full on experience, and vice versa. I always think it's a little bit dangerous in doing that. I mean, under the program in which you had experienced, though, it makes sense. I mean, you were prepared and you had the skills. And there are some dynamic programs that I have adjudicated in Maryland where the teachers are primarily band teachers, but what they have done with their knowledge and just researching and asking questions and figuring it out as they've gone along the way has been phenomenal. So I'm listening and I'm looking. First of all, happy Black History Month. Whoop whoop.
thank
Yes.
you, you
And
too.
into
Absolutely.
the sea of Black and brown children singing and playing classical music, that warms my heart because oftentimes, still, not only as, we can talk about and will, the stigmas around the field that we are in and as women and as Black women, but we still get it in classical music, not enough respect. And Lord knows we've had a plethora of people representing European classical music that were of the Black diaspora who had done it with sheer excellence and grace, and everybody else has been also, feeding off of them. So I'm glad to see it and to know that it isn't a music that's played in our community, but Lord knows it's something that they need to be exposed to as well, not just the hip hop and the rap. And I'm down with it, but be exposed, be a well-rounded musician. Do you find that you had to convince your students of this? Do they gravitate to the classical music?
It depends. It depends from song to song. I remember teaching this one. I absolutely loved this song, and by the end of the year, they liked it. But it was a struggle at first. I think just because of the Latin and the slower tempo. Some of them they really like it. Like when we did the conversion of Saul, which is a lot more complex. They liked the drama of it. But to them, this was like, do we have to do this? Um, they they complain sometimes, but what I tell them is, especially because a lot of them are from constituent churches, that they're going to get their gospel music and they're going to get their CCM and their other genres of music at church. So I expose them to other different genres and multicultural music and different things that they might not necessarily get in other settings.
So I did hear of that you brought gospel in there,
I'm
and
sorry, say that again.
I said I heard at the end that you did bring in some gospel. I mean,
Oh, yes.
it's multifaceted, really and truly. Do you have specifically a gospel choir at all, or you just have purposely left that off because they have the experience in church?
I have purposely left it off. We'll do one or two a year, but again, because there's a dynamic gospel choir for the children in the area, and you had Charisse on here a couple of weeks ago, an absolutely amazing musician. And several of my students do sing in the DMV gospel choir,
Yeah.
and so one of my mentors, Dr. Raymond Wise, always told me about being sure to create a total spectrum choir. And total spectrum meaning that they could perform any genre or anything that you put in front of them and do it well and be true to each style. So I do try to expose them to.
I love that. I love that. And I love this idea of the total choir. As an educator, as a choral conductor, I think in general, one of the things that the world seems to use these two words, inclusion and diversity, as if these are new concepts. And they kind of are now in this space where it's like, oh, okay, let's make sure we do music by Black composers, so we can check the box of diversity and inclusion in there. And it should have already been a practice. Like this should be something that we do very naturally. I use that word, without even thought. Do you find yourself, because you are from where, Lulu?
Originally from Kenya.
Yeah. So do you incorporate your culture into some of the curriculum that you use for your young people? Because I'm certain that you have just a diaspora of representation from different countries in your choral program.
Yes, absolutely, we do. We do a lot of Southern African repertoire as well.
Yeah.
And we've done some things from East Africa, so I do try and expose them. And then depending on where our students are from, we have some Hispanic students, so we try to find music that is representative of them as well. Depending on who we have in the class, we do try to highlight different aspects of their cultures.
I love that. I really do. I try to pride myself, in making sure that during the months like Hispanic Heritage Month and Asian Pacific Month and Black History Month, that and whatever else that we are trying to teach, to let the students that we have in there who are from these different spaces feel some level of connection and as well as the exposure for all of the other students who are in there who will never in their life attempt to listen to, involve themselves, or read about, just be a part of these other spaces that is so important to figure out. I mean, we're living all together. That's one of the things that brings music and makes music so powerful, in our the responsibility that we have as educators. Do you find yourself ever looking at where they are right now, and you can identify with it, or were you in a further space than the students of today?
In terms of,
In terms of life, in terms of direction, in terms of I know what I want to do, your awareness to other people, other cultures, uh, your connectivity on a whole,
Mhm.
are you more aware where you write, where they are, where can you understand and relate in depth, or does it seem foreign? Like, I look at a lot of them and I'm like, what are you all doing? You're so entitled, you're, you know, at, at some spaces, or I think maybe too, I found myself knowing what I wanted to do when they were in that space. And so I'm kind of bewildered when they don't have some sort of idea.
Mm. No, that's a great question. My situation in high school was kind of unique. I went to high school in Kenya, Maxwell Academy, and it was missionary, mostly missionary. Many missionaries that were working around Africa sent their students or their kids to go to school at Maxwell. So it was very small. We had 100 students. And on any given year, in any given year, we had 33 different countries represented on campus.
Wow.
So we would have, the breakdown was usually probably about 33% African students from different countries, 33% Filipino. We had a very huge Filipino community, and then 33% other continents around the world that were not Africa and were not Filipino. So graduation was really sad because you've got someone from France dating somebody from Sri Lanka, somebody from Kenya dating somebody from the Philippines. So it's and then you form these bonds. It was a boarding school over 4 years. So really, I don't think anyone who went to our high school can get culture shock, because you're either living in a different country or you're just totally immersed into other people's cultures. So in that regard, I think I was in a different space. I think where maybe as a teenager I can relate to them was the idea of building a work ethic and understanding the value of hard work and how much you can enjoy the fruits of your labor and the success, how much sweeter the success is when you've worked hard for it, instead of everything being handed to you. So that's something that developed for me over time. And that's something that I see in them and try to instill in them even now, that you have to work hard for the gains, because sometimes they want to go on the trips or they want to do the competitions or they want to do all these things. And when the work that's being done in the classroom, you know, my husband likes to say everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but no one wants to lift the weights. They want the results, but they don't want to do the work. So I think as a teenager, I can relate to that. And that's something that we're working towards. And especially now, because this generation of young people, they have everything.
Everything.
They have everything. Yes. And so teaching them to work and teaching them patience, the process, because everything is so fast, whether they're looking up something on the internet or they're playing games, their life is so fast, results are so fast. So when it comes to something like music, that takes discipline and it takes perseverance and really falling in love with the process. The product is great, but understanding that the process, we live 90% of what we do, 95 is the process. We spend months preparing 3 minutes of music, and I try to tell them, these are the skills that you're going to transfer to everything non-musical that you're doing. Take your project, if it's your Bible project or history project, from a totally raw project and falling in love with the process and being excellent along the way and not giving up until you have a product that you are proud of. So,
You know what I find, and you were raised SDA, Seventh Day
I was.
Adventist.
Mhm.
You know, I always say this to all of my Seventh Day Adventist friends. God gave y'all a little extra dose of the Holy Ghost. Because especially when it comes to, you talk about discipline, and I find I don't know a Seventh Day Adventist musician who isn't just stellar. I haven't met
Mm.
I'm certain that they exist. Where are you? Who are you? It is something are you all taught this? What happens outside of what I believe is really present, that is cultured inside that denomination that brings about that work ethic, the building it, and knowing that you've got to persevere and push. It almost feels like it's across the board. Yeah? No?
Maybe I don't know if it's a Seventh-day Adventist thing.
It ain't Baptist.
um, I know personally for me, some of the people who've inspired me over the years are definitely Seventh-day Adventists, but those are not the only people that have influenced me. Music is a huge part of um, our worship settings and our schools, and it's a huge part of the curriculum. So maybe we do have a special dose. I don't know, but some of my mentors definitely have are Adventists and have stellar programs. Yeah, even in Africa, some of the people that I can think of, my first um, outside of high school, my first really inspirational professor, his name was John Mwesa. He was a Zambian music educator. He was Adventist as well, but his choirs from Zambia, whether it was in Zambia or Kenya, were absolutely amazing. And then coming to the United States, um, some of the influences, well, growing up, let me backtrack a little bit. Growing up, my parents played a lot of spirituals, Tuskegee and the Fisk Jubilee Singers, in addition to any African music that we were listening to. But American or Western genres, they played country music, they played Tuskegee and Fisk Jubilee. Classical music, they had all of us in music lessons quite early while we were growing up in Kenya. Never really much gospel. Aretha Franklin, they had stuff from back in the day, never much gospel. And then when I came to the United States, I continued with the Western style of music education. And then until I heard, it was in Ohio, Jason Max Ferdinand brought the Pine Forge Academy Choir to Ohio. I didn't know him. I think I may have said hello to him then somewhere in 2006 or something like that. And the Pine Forge Academy Choir it was a sound that I had heard with some of the Aeolians, with the older Aeolians choirs, but it wasn't something that I'd heard anywhere else. There was a resemblance in the Tuskegee choirs and everything, the other spirituals that I'd heard growing up. There was just something different, and it wasn't just with spirituals. With Jason's choir, it was across the board. And then a couple of years later, I met Dr. Lloyd Mallory, who was one of my mentors. Yeah. Love him to pieces. Mal, if you can hear this, love you to pieces. It was at the Hamptons Ministers Conference that I met him. I'd heard of his choirs. But again, growing up in Africa, I didn't have the traditional Black Adventist upbringing as a musician or a gospel background. So these were kind of my introductions into it. And then Dr. Raymond Wise's choir at Ohio State University. And so I think that's when I started really following the traditions of some of the Adventist musicians and all the choirs, even when I was at AUC, not necessarily Black genres, but my professors at AUC too, Dr. Virginia Jean Rittenhouse, who's I'm not sure if you know her, but she's the one who founded the New England Youth Orchestra. She was at AUC. Dr. Bingham was there earlier. So there's a rich tradition all the way around. So I got to meet these people along the way. So that's been my experience with the Adventist music tradition. And I've been in Adventist schools all along. But again, it's from the African perspective and then different places. Yeah.
When did you know that this was going to be, music was going to be your life?
When did I know? I fought it for a long time as a career.
That's fun.
I did.
Okay.
I was going to be in the musical fields. I mean, in the medical field. So, my dad tells, and my mom would tell a story of when I was really little, when my friends would come over, I would teach them songs. When there weren't any friends, I would line up my dolls and teach them songs. Okay. And we had different nannies and things growing up in Kenya, and we have 42 different tribes in Kenya. And so anytime we had a new person working or helping out at home, I'd ask them to teach me a song in their language. And then my friends would come over, then I'd teach it to them. So my dad would tell me, he was a professor, you should be a music teacher. I was like, first of all, you and mom are teachers. That's not about to be a thing. That's not happening. And then music, I said, what? I can't, I like it. I like doing it for fun, but not as a career. So in high school, my high school music teacher, I gave him a difficult time, Pastor Williams, my freshman year, because I would catch on to things. And then after I caught on and was waiting for people to catch on, I may or may not have been disruptive in class my freshman year in high school.
Okay.
I may or may not have gotten kicked out of choir because I like to laugh a lot. And I played clarinet. It's my friend. It was her. She was really funny. So
sure.
Yeah. So Pastor Williams, I'm sorry for my freshman year. Anyway, by my sophomore year, I was in both choirs. I was in bell choir. I was playing clarinet and band. I was in everything. I was taking piano lessons. But still, I didn't think it's something I wanted to do. My junior year, I became his assistant. And that was my first time doing anything with orchestra. We did a big production, a cantata with orchestra, and I was a junior in high school. And he, as a librarian, let me do all the music and organizing it and making sure that all the different orchestra members had their music. But still, I thought it would be something I did on the side. So I started out as a biology major because I was going to be a physician's assistant. I really was. Biology major, music minor. My sophomore year, I said, okay, I'm going to do music education and biology. Now, music education by itself is 2 different degrees rolled up into one.
Absolutely.
Very quickly, I found out I couldn't do both. So I dropped the biology and stuck with music because I knew that I wanted to work with young people, and I knew I wanted to do something that was in service and something with music. So I've always put my career path in the Lord's hands 100% because I know he knows what he created me for. And so music education became the thing. So as a music ed major, I knew I had a problem figuring out what my major instrument was going to be. I knew I didn't want to be.
And you played. You
I sang and I played, but when it's your major emphasis, like at the violinists, they were really good. They'd been playing since they were 5. I wasn't good enough. Well, I didn't really love the clarinet enough to pursue it on that level. And then singing, didn't like singing alone as much as with choir. So I did struggle with some identity as what is my major instrument. And then my senior year, my professor started having me run rehearsals. Actually, even before that, when I was at Union College, I was there for a year. Mr. Stephen Hall had me direct the band a few times, the high school band. And I found that I really enjoyed directing, and it was very easy for me to communicate with the ensemble. And then happened again junior, senior year with choir. And I said, oh, I think conducting is my major instrument. So I started pursuing that. Even though music ed and teaching different things, I do consider conducting to be my major instrument.
Well, it's interesting because there are two, areas that intersect. You have you as the educator, you as the conductor. And as an educator, the primary goal is to impart knowledge into the young people. As the conductor, though, it can take on even further, exploring being over a major symphony orchestra or a major choral aggregation or coming up with your own program. What are you thinking of in the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to that part of your conducting? Do you want to expand it? Are you comfortable with being in the space of being, an educator in the high school setting? Is that goal for you? Goal met, I'm good.
Awesome. There is someone at my door. I'm so sorry. I need like 20 seconds. In 20 seconds, and I'll be right back to answer that question.
I'm sorry, that is hysterical. She is at her school right now, and between Tuesday nights are the nights that she's working overtime as an educator because, as you know, we don't have, well, I do now. After this is almost 30 years for me. I certainly do not have it where I am, burning the midnight oil like that anymore. I'm getting tired, y'all, truly getting tired. But she's there, and Tuesday nights are her extremely late nights. So I appreciate the fact that she's able to jump on with us. I was looking at some of the comments as we were going along, and Patrick D. McCoy, I wanted to know if you're still a part of this here conversation, what you responded in. I know that's right too, because she's already dropped a couple of really, really good nuggets going on in here, talking about falling in love with the process, which I always speak to philanthropists and to other people, and just knowing that what we do, if we don't really love and if you can't appreciate the behind the scenes work that gets us to those moments on the stage, then it gets more joyous when you came, and you dive a little bit deeper. So, okay, welcome back here.
I am so sorry about that, guys.
You're fine.
All right, here we are. So that was the 10 years from now question.
Yeah.
And do I see myself in high school? So regardless of where I am in life, I know that I will always be involved in creating opportunities, in immersing young people in music. Whether it's at a school, hopefully I won't, I don't, we'll see what will be happening, but I do hope to be conducting professionally then, conducting professionally different choral and instrumental ensembles. I would like to do that, and to be involved in community programs, specifically geared towards young people, high school and early 20s. That's where we lose a lot of our artists and a lot of our musicians, where they could still scaffold their musical talent and continue on to other careers.
Yeah.
So I hope to be doing both of those things. So still working with young people in some capacity or another, providing musical education to them, but also conducting on a professional level.
You and I have spoken about how very few women, especially though African American women, women of the Black diaspora, are represented in this field. I can literally name them on one hand, and one hand will not encompass all fingers. Do you, in that 10-year goal, think of being one of those women who want to help break down some of the barriers to, you know, bust those glass ceilings of still, being judged on the fact that we're women, and they have a very particular look of what the expectation is, especially when we're talking about directing choral or orchestra. Lord knows, huge orchestra, you just don't see that happen. Is that a goal for you in the 10-year process?
Absolutely. I was I was backstage in a concert hall in Europe, and I won't name the place, but I was backstage and looking at the pictures of the conductors on the wall, and there was along all four walls. I think there was probably half of one wall left that didn't have any space, but all the pictures um, were men,
Mhm.
and there were no minority men, but the person that we were there with was a black male conducting one of those large symphony orchestras, and that definitely shows progress. Um, but there were no women, any women.
Mhm.
And so I definitely want to be a part of that. And recently I've joined a couple of Facebook groups that are absolutely, they're giving me life. The women's conductors.
Yes.
I think they're just not lauded enough, or maybe people are not in these spaces enough to see that there are actually phenomenal, amazing female conductors that are leading major orchestras, not necessarily in the United States. We don't have that many leading major orchestras. I think there's is it the Atlanta Symphony? There's
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Yes, yes. There's one that was, I can't remember her name right now, but there's one that was recently added to the list of conductors. But across, like in European countries, in South American countries, there are so many women conductors, and in Asia as well. So it's definitely happening, and they are out there. I think there need to be more of us, and just make it more of a possibility to even our students as career opportunities.
Absolutely.
To present that to them and see that it's something to consider.
I was sharing with you in conversation one time. I had an event at the Kennedy Center, and there was a young girl with her mother in the audience, a young Black girl. And I get a letter, an email from this mother, and the mother says to me, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and I want you to know that my daughter told me that she wants to grow up and be like you. I say that because I know that when I was coming up, I didn't have the
Mm,
to see and have a level of access to any Black woman who's on a major stage.
mm,
Go to the
mhm,
concert, but I mean specifically in classical, and to see one who was a conductor, to know also it's possible. And so I'm so with you when you talk about, making sure that, we are sharing this with our young people that, oh, you can do this.
mhm,
This is a viable career that, it's sustainable. You don't have to stress. You can take care of your bills,
mhm.
do what you need to do. You can live. Because I know that so many times in music, don't worry about that,
They do.
you know?
They
And
do, because
it's
they're like,
true.
if you're not a full-time teacher, they want to know, like, how are you going to make money if you're a musician? But they're definitely options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And the idea is to always give them that level of exposure so that they can kind of test out many different waters, because we have kids who have a variety of different gifts and talents that the creator has bestowed upon them. Oh, it's thank you, Patrick D. McCoy. I just looked in the comments. It's Natalie Stutzman from
Stutzman.
Atlanta.
Yes, Atlanta Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
And I have to put a plug in here for Marin Allsopp from
Oh yeah.
Peabody, who's doing an amazing job. She has a docu-film that just came out about the Conductor. It's in theaters, and that's another one to follow.
Definitely looking forward to that. And and it took so many years. I remember when they made the announcement that she was taking over Baltimore's orchestra. And it was such a huge deal that I won't ever forget that, because we didn't have any women doing that. And so here she was, and busting through some major glass ceilings on all levels, not just as a
Absolutely.
musician, but in her personal life, and standing on stage and being able to represent all of those things that she stood for. So yeah, kudos to her for real, and as a trailblazer. Well, you have some
She is.
yeah, she truly is. You have great things coming up on the horizon. And by the way, you're a trailblazer too. You are Black and you are history. You are history, sis.
Praise him. I'm gonna let him use me however he wants to use me. I'm just an instrument.
Amen to that. What are the things that you would like to see happen for your young people? I mean, we talked a little bit about the competition, and one of the things too that I always note with young folk, unless they're playing a sport, they don't get the idea of winning. I don't know what that is, and I'm trying to convince them that hello, music is a sport too, and what we do, all of those things that athletes have to do, we have to do as choral singers, and preparation for it. And when we go into these things, we're going, or we ought to go with the mindset of winning. Do your kids
Absolutely.
struggle with that? Do your students struggle with that? Oh wow. Okay, the silence spoke. Okay.
They really they do. They struggle with it. And the funny thing is, the class of 2020 specifically, they did competitions. And even after winning the medals in South Africa at the World Choir Games, we had another competition in several months after that in New Jersey. And still, they understood what it takes to win, but still reigniting that thing in them that if you want to win, there's certain things that you have to do.
Yeah.
They do struggle with that. And sometimes, especially with musicians, they will discover too late that we weren't prepared or not prepared enough or didn't do the work. And I keep telling them, if we're going to sign up for certain things, or if we're going to be a particular type of program, we have to have that mindset of winning. So I think you and I talked about this last week when we were preparing for the World Choir Games. We had done a few local competitions. We're a small Christian school. We don't do the all-state or the state competitions and things like that. We hadn't done any of those things. We had done a couple of adjudicated events, but again, we were going from 0 to 100 when we signed up for the World Choir Games. And so what I said to them is, it's going to cost us $250,000 to go to South Africa to do this competition. Number one, we're not going all the way to compete in this. The other name for it is the Choir Olympics. Okay, we're not going all the way to the Olympics to not win. Because there were two categories you could enter. You could enter an open category where you would come back with a diploma, or you could enter the champions category where you win medals, but you had to qualify to enter the champions category. And we were one of 10 choirs representing the United States. I think there were 300 choirs from 61 different countries. So, and the Aeolians were at that competition too, and they Yep. They sure did their thing there as well. So it was good. The United States, I have to brag a little bit. The United States came back with 14 total medals. 3 were for Tacoma Academy, 3 were for Oakwood University, 3 were for San Antonio Chamber Singers, I think they're called, under Bruce, forget his last name. I'm blanking. I'm forgetting people's names today. But yeah, so that was great. That 9 of those medals were from choirs that we are associated with, which was great.
That's
so
awesome.
we were in the champions category. We entered the maximum number of categories under that. So we did 3 different categories, which means we had to perform 12 songs. And so if we're going into the champions category. If we're going, we are not coming back without medals. We are winning medals, and what we want is gold medals. So for a while they would say, I mean, it would be nice to win. And I said, that's not enough. We can't say it would be nice to. There's too much at stake. It's too big of a competition for us to be in a mental place where we're saying it would be nice too. And I'd ask them, why is it difficult for you to say, I want to win a gold medal? And some of them felt that they weren't being humble. Some of them felt that they were maybe not deserving, or that it's an arrogant thing to say. And I said, we're not looking at it in that spirit, but you have to know, like, if we're not sure, we can stay here and just do regular concerts, or we can plan a mission trip. All our trips do have a mission project attached to them, but for them to get to the point where they could say, I want to win a gold medal in this, and to say it, not just saying it, but to say it with conviction, to where you could see it in their actions in class, like where they're pulling each other to get their practice together, to learn their notes, to do their sectionals, to call each other on the phone and make sure they have their music learned. When they bought into the idea of we actually want this, and it's okay to say it, and it's not a prideful thing, it made such a difference in what our rehearsals looked like for the remaining time between that time and the competition. So they get it with sports, and with sports, it's kind of like they have games every day. You know, like our basketball team just won a championship in Texas. But to get them to that point where not only are they saying it, but they're saying it with emotion and with a belief behind it. Like, we want to, and we can, and we're working for it. That made all the difference in what type of work we were doing in the classroom.
Yeah. Team, know that it's Bruce Rogers. Bruce Rogers.
Thank you. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, I could say that all of that, you know, to my next question about what do you share with the aspiring artist. And I mean, I could, you know, say that that's one of the things that you share with them about wanting it. Like you got to develop that space that it's okay. But what else do you tell them that, you know, those who really want to go into this thing and they have some level of intrepidation, fear, uncertainty of, you know, whether or not this thing is going to provide for them. And you know, sometimes just proving other people wrong, although, you know, that shouldn't be the focus, but that's always in the back of their mind too. They want to do this thing. What do you share with them?
I share with them that for artists, it's a little different than maybe somebody, and if there are any accountants listening, no offense, I'm just using accountants as an example. You can really, really, really love accounting. When you go to your job in the morning, you open your computer, you do all the accounting things. At the end of the day, you can close your computer and go home and you're done with accounting for the day. When you're a musician or an artist, you can't separate in your head, where's the minister, where where's the educator? You know, music is, it's my ministry, it's my career, it's what I do for fun. It's also the thorn in my side. It's all these things, and you can't separate them. And all of these different pieces, it's who you are as a musician. It's who you are all day, 24/7. And all these voices of this might not work, or I'm not good enough at this, or I need to improve on this, or there's so many negative voices that could potentially, and that do come to us as musicians. We're constantly questioning certain things. Is my sword as sharp as it needs to be? Am I relevant in my field? What are my contemporaries doing? What are the things that I may not be doing in my musicianship that I need to improve on? How are my interpersonal skills? There are all these things. So I tell them, being an artist is, it's a different ballgame. It's something that you have to commit to. But something that we know for sure, again, is that when you know what you want to do and you have a goal, hard work, consistency, there's no destination. I tell them that if you want to do it, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Excellence is a moving target. You're never going to arrive at excellence one day, because the better you get, the target for excellence moves. And sometimes the better you get, the increments of from good to great, the greater you get, the smaller those increments of the smaller those increments are. So you have to fine tune. It's a moving target. It's a lifelong learning thing. It's something that you have to commit to. So just like anything else in life, any goal that you set, what I tell them is, if you listen to the things to all the no's and the naysayers in your head, you're not going to take the next right step towards what you want to do. So I tell them, it's like the thing of eating an elephant. You can't stuff the whole thing in your mouth. It's one bite at a time. Do the next right thing. Do the next right thing. Be consistent in what you're doing. And surround yourself, the circle that you have, surround yourself with the people that you want to be like, with the people that have similar visions. When you're in your industry, if you are constantly the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room. You need to be able to surround yourself with people that you can learn from, and people you can listen to, people who will tell you about yourself, because that's the other thing. Because music or art is everything to us, we're also extremely sensitive about our art. And sometimes our sensitivity can get in the way of our growth if we're not surrounded with the right people. So there's so many different pieces to it. I could go on about this forever. Absolutely. So I don't know if there were some nuggets in there that are useful.
I'm with you. And Sarah, who's listening in and watching right now, she said it's wonderful insight from the description of the artist's mind. Wow. And I mean, really and truly, the analogy that you gave, we can't shut it off. We don't shut it off. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like, I've had sleepless nights because, things are playing in my head, and not just one thing, the 3 or 4 things that are running simultaneously. And, it keeps you up, and you still have to be a parent, to which you are, and you still have to be wife, to which you are. I don't, hallelujah. But all of those things, all of those things. And then you're the musician and you are the artist. And then you still have to find moments for self-care, for mental health, for rejuvenation of Lulu, so that you can be the better, here goes that excellence level, of all of those wonderful titles that God has given you the responsibility over. Sis, where and can we get, I know we can go on YouTube and hear the choir, but what are some of the things, where are they going to be in the next couple of months? I know that we're into this crazy COVID and things that are starting to lift in a way, what are the plans
Mhm.
that you're having for Tacoma Academy that people who are watching can make put it on their calendar and make sure that they are showing up to whatever is next?
So again, COVID has done quite a number
Yeah.
on us, but we are still very grateful. One of the opportunities we have coming up next week, as we are one of the concert choirs at ACDA Eastern Division in Boston. Our concerts are going to be on Thursday morning, 9:45 and 11:15. So we have that coming up. Some of the other things have kind of been put on hold because of the surge.
Right.
So we do have other governing bodies to answer to. However, if people go to the ta.edu website, the calendar will be updated with anything else that we have coming up.
Because
So
one of
just in
the,
prayer for that.
I'm sorry, one of the that you are we're getting ready to do with Carnegie Hall and directing at Carnegie Hall. When is that going to show up?
Awesome, thank you. So Carnegie Hall was initially scheduled for this June
Mhm.
25th of this year, and that has been moved back to we're going to be June 18th of 2023. So, and that's not just for Tacoma Academy. So I'll be putting something out. So if there are other choirs or individuals that would want to sing in that concert, we would love to have you.
Oh, yay, yay, yay. So we will look forward to and the muses, we will support and put it up on our Facebook and our IG page to make sure that whenever that announcement comes, that our muses, that's what I call them, our muses will be notified. And if they're able to, especially for the folk who are in New York, to be present, for those who are choral conductors and you want to take advantage of this awesome opportunity to be a part of it too. Lulu, I appreciate you, sis. I do.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I'm looking
Thank you for
forward.
having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the additional walls that you break down in this field of conducting, to seeing your face and your name in spaces that even right here in America, because I can name a space that every time I walk in it and I don't see any pictures of Black women represented as conductors. And I always say, my face is going to go there one day. I hope that yours will be right there next to me in the process. I give it to God. I'm gonna let God
From
do
your lips to God's ears.
that's and that's all. To all of the muses, thank you so much for being with us this evening. I look forward to seeing you all in the next couple of weeks. Again, Lulu, thank you so very much. And good sister, we will not make sure it takes us this long of a time for us to reconnect. Okay, or to connect.
Absolutely.
Make sure that that happens. All the best for the rest of the year to you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm
And
looking.
you as well.
Oh, sis, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
So
Thank you.
everybody, I will see you soon. Peace, blessings.